Alright, Mr. Sotko here, and welcome back to another Company Heroes 2 replay cast. Today it's a 1 vs 1 on Faymonville approach between our blue Russian player Paul A.D. and up top our red OKW player Ciez. And it is Faymonville approach. And my last replay was on this map. Victory point on the top, victory point in the center, and on the bottom, along with a munitions point and a fuel point. The building covering that. Fuel point on this side, with the building covering that as well, and a munitions point all the way at the top. And now Stern Pioneers now to the very first territory point there. Now going after the second one. And conscripts moving out did make that support weapons building right off the bat, and engineers moving up to the top territory point there above the base. We do have a Kubel wagon out for the second unit of the OKW, and Volksgrenadiers to follow. And now Engineers going to try and take that fuel point. However, Stern Pioneers inside the building here will make that a little bit difficult. Short-ranged units, but going to skip it and just go over here instead for now. And now the conscripts have taken that territory point here, and the Kubelwagen is taking the fuel point here. So now 2 fuel points for the OKW right off the bat, and that's not going to be good for the Russians if he lets that go on a little too long. We do have a Maxim out, or the Russian player here. And another Volksgrenadier on the way for the OKW. Kubelwagen now firing back. Looks like it's about halfway deep there in mud. Conscripts inside the building going to hold out for a little while, and Engineers going to have to run from the Stern Pioneers, the superior engineering unit here, and going to try and get some range in between the Stern Pioneers and those Engineers. Maxim now inside the building here to cover the fuel point, and conscripts trying to chase down this Kubelwagen, but that's going to be a long process. Engineers did put some range in between them, but it's not really enough, these Stern Pioneers. So they're holding out for a little while there. Appears my voice was nearly destroyed for a moment there. Kubelwagen now taking the cutoff point of the Russians. Did neutralize it for a moment there. Will force the Russians back to take that. Now the Maxim going to be taking the fuel point here. And the Volksgrenadiers are going to have to try and get around that somehow. Could hop the fence here and then go around. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Now second Maxim out of the field for the Russians. 3 Volksgrenadiers on the field, and that 1 Kubelwagen. Now Volksgrenadiers get inside the building here, and the Maxim's going to have to switch around and fire to the building. But the Maxim doesn't have as good of a cover as he would like. It looks like a 3rd Maxim now in the field for the Russians. Going to be using that Yeol Maxim massing meta. The MMM Wehrmacht Schlepper out on the field for the OKW. And now Stern Pioneers have cover on these conscripts here. And now the Maxim in a little bit of trouble here. Volksgrenadiers coming around the side. And the Kubelwagen is just going to have to pick up and run on home. So do the Volksgrenadiers at the same time now. And then the Maxim up top there, holding off the OKW for a little while. And where is that 3rd Maxim? Looks like it's just coming out now onto the bottom of the map. And Kubelwagen going to be taking the victory point there. And Volksgrenadiers taking back the fuel point. So now it's going to be 1 fuel point to 1 fuel point. Maxim going to get inside the building here. And the Volksgrenadiers are close enough. It's just going to get suppressed instantly here. They might be able to capture it, though, depending on the RNG, if they get suppressed, pinned, rather. And now here comes the Kubelwagen to help out. Kubelwagen will be able to get on and finish that up. Volksgrenadiers do get pinned right off the bat, but the Kubelwagen is there to cover him and get this fuel point back for the OKW. 2 victory points for the OKW, none for the Russians. 460 to 500. So far, a flawless game here for Ciez at the moment. Only 5 minutes in, so time will tell, but Engineers here with a flamethrower. And Maxim trying to fire at the units inside this building here, but mostly just striking that stone wall there. Did build a mechanized regiment headquarters. Maybe going for a fast Lukes to deal with all of these Maxims that are on the field. Another Maxim down at the bottom here, taking the fuel point. So 2 Maxims pretty close together. And up top here, another Maxim. Gonna have to run away. They do have that fuel point for a little while, but not for long. And here comes some engineers with a flamethrower. And gonna be aiming at these Stern Pioneers here, but taking shots from both sides. They're not gonna last too long. And I don't even think they're gonna be able to kill anybody. And no, they're just gonna have to run away. And these Volksgrenadiers are still taking heat from this Maxim here, and they finally get out. And don't take any suppression. Very nice. And going to be taking that victory or territory point and the victory point in the center. And now putting a shoe mine on the other side of that building there, where the door is. Conscript's down to 2 men, and got to watch this. Jaeger's slowly sniping down those conscripts there. Forces them out, but they do neutralize that fuel point at the very least. And now 2 engineers with flamethrowers going to be forcing away those Jaeger light infantry. And Kubu Wagon still alive, going strong here. Still not a 1 veteran. Looks like a Luke's now out on the field here for, or soon for the OKW, now out on the field to deal with all these Maxims. And doesn't look like Paul at the moment has any way to deal with a Luke's other than possibly researching anti-tank grenades, which really just damages the engine of the Luke's and takes many of them to actually take it out. And I heard that go off, and looks like it took out 2, 3 men perhaps out of that Maxim. So a very nice place for a shoe mine there. And now the Maxim is so low, he will lose his Maxim very, very quickly. And should be getting that Maxim out of there as soon as possible. Maxim isn't even firing. And probably will lose that Maxim here in just a moment. Down to 1 man, does lose it. And looks like the Volksgrenadiers are going to happily pick that up and just put it right back in the building probably, and will cover this fuel point. And now the Luke's now coming down to the bottom here, going to deal with this Maxim, forces that out of there. Does have the support weapons, so can get a ZIS should he develop the funds for that, but does not have it at the moment. Two victory points for the OKW, 1 for the Russians, and it's just about to be taken away. 325 to 500, still a flawless game for Sias at the moment. And this Maxim still firing away at that house. And getting rid of this would be very nice. This portion right here, running that over the tank, it would provide a nice clear shot to that building there. Now here comes the Lukes coming down to the bottom. Gonna get this Maxim. A ZIS is on the way for the Russians. Try and deal with that Lukes, and we'll see if he can do that, just that. And it would be nice to have anti-tank grenades on his conscripts. He does, so when he can get some conscripts near that with the ZIS, actually hit that with an anti-tank grenade, damage its engine, then hit it with the ZIS. Easier said than done, but it's pretty much what he has to do. Now some troops going to take the cutoff point there for the Russians. Not that there is really anything to cut off at the moment, considering he doesn't really have anything on the other side of the map. Jaeger light infantry forced out of there with 2 flamethrowers. And now the conscripts run away, and a pretty preemptive retreat there, as there were still a couple men. And looks like he may lose this engineer right here. Could lose it. It's going to be so close. No, he doesn't. And that is one lucky engineer squad. Maxim now setting up here to try and suppress these troops. Not going to do anything, of course, to the Lukes. And I bet he's wishing those were MG42s right now, because it could actually do something to that Lukes with those armor-piercing incendiary rounds. ZIS now set up, and these Volksgrenadiers do see that though, and so he's definitely not going to move this Lukes up now. Russians forced all the way back to their base, and there goes an incendiary grenade. He's going to have to pick that up and run that on home now. Meanwhile, down at the bottom here, this Maxim dealing with the Kuba wagon and doing a lot of damage to it. Kuba wagon trying to get out of there as soon as it can, and shouldn't actually take it out there. Should be able to survive, and it does. Engineers going to be coming up to the building here, trying to shoo out these Jaeger light infantry, and they do. Maxim now being harassed by the Lukes. Once again, Luke's nearly a one-star veteran. Shoe mines on the ground up there. And here comes that ZIS coming around the corner, but the Lukes knows that something's got to be up here. So he's backing out now. It looks like he's going to put that ZIS on the munitions point, so he's going to capture that at the same time as providing some support here. Does strike that Panzer II, but he's just going to make it out of there, and has some Sturm Pioneers with those mine detectors and tools, so he'll be able to repair that up no problem. And now Maxim firing away in the center, suppressing these troops here. Needs to get the right side. There isn't too much on the right side. Does have that Maxim in the building for the OKW there to defend that, but couldn't make his way around the right side and at least force his opponent here, Ciez, to micro to the top and to the bottom, but just not really doing that at the moment. Doesn't really have a lot of units, forcing them all back to base and reinforcing them over and over. And I think he may be really hoping he can either make it to 9 or 13 command points to get that IS-2 out, but that's going to be a while just yet. Now a mortar coming out on the field for the Russians. Going to try and get this fuel, but unfortunately just going to neutralize it. Going to have to run those troops out of there. May actually lose this squad. Luke's going to be moving forward. Going to try and get it, and no, not going to be able to get it, but very, very close. And did neutralize that fuel point, so it, at the very least, did take it from his opponent. But there is another fuel point up here that is in the hands of the OKW, so he's had the majority of the fuel the whole time. And so he has so much fuel going on right now, and camouflages that Panzer II there, but he does ground fire where that Panzer II was. So a pretty nice reaction there from Paul to actually know to ground fire in that area, but still misses it either way. It was just out of range. Incendiary lands in the building there. Force that Maxim out of there. Not going to force it to retreat, though. Just going to have to back out momentarily and then set up. Could set up behind that lovely horse carcass. Or is that a cow? Looks like a horse, but it is really, really bloated and really fat. It's a really fat horse. Surprised somebody didn't eat that. Volkswagen was going to try and get to the building there, but unable to do that. And engineers make it in there first. Now the flame coming out. Let's roast one of those men, I believe. Indeed, there is a fiery corpse on the ground. Mortar here. A little bit of an open area. That Luke could probably pull up on that mortar there, force that out of there. This Maxim may get decrewed here. I wouldn't be surprised, and does get decrewed. Now only one Maxim for the Russians. Could probably actually recrew that, as it's pretty close to his base. Should be able to, but we'll have to see. And here comes some conscripts now. Looks like they're going to pick that back up. Does pick it up, and just going to retreat all of those and reinforce them back at the base. And should be retreating that. Indeed, he does. Still no victory points for the Russians. And Luke's continuously takes one hit from that ZIS and then repairs up. So it's not a big deal. If you take one hit, all you gotta do is really back it up. So that's why I was saying earlier that an anti-tank grenade at the same time of hitting it with the ZIS would be a really good combination, because you would damage its engine and possibly would be able to get a second ZIS hit on it. But again, easier said than done. It's being microed very well by Ciaz, keeping it at max range and keeping it away from any conscripts, because he knows that's going to happen if he gets it near any conscripts. So doing a really good job of it. So very difficult to get at that Panzer II in the first place. Does take the bottom victory point here for the Russians, and looks like he may take the center victory point as well. And looks like that's going to be uncontested for a little while. Jaeger Light Infantry can move over there. And Kübelwagen now coming down to the bottom. And here goes an incendiary grenade on that building. And engineers forced out of there. The Panzer II at the bottom of the map now. And conscripts may oorah and try and get at that Panzer II there. But no, they do not. And now just need to retreat. They're so low, and there's all kinds of things firing on them. Should just get out of there. And he's doing just that now. And now the ZIS comes down, but a little bit too late. Oh, no. Actually might be able to get a hit on that ZIS. And does. But again, just one hit, and it's backing out, so it's just not enough. And now here comes the Panzer II on the right side. And so needs to spread out his conscripts a little bit more, and maybe oorah after that Panzer II and actually damage its engine, which would put it out for a little bit longer. Now a level 2 veteran Panzer II. And now the Kübelwagen takes an anti-tank grenade there and damages it, but unfortunately not going to be able to finish that off. In the center here, that Maxim is set up and taking that center victory point. And Maxim took a direct mortar there, nearly decrewed the whole thing. And mortar trying to get out of there. Infiltration grenades land all over it, but a little bit too late. Now, second ZIS is coming for the Russians, which I think is a pretty good idea. He could keep one down here and one in the center. So wherever that Panzer II goes, it's going to face the danger of a ZIS. And even if he doesn't actually hit that Panzer II with the ZIS, it's going to make that ZIS stay way back. And ZIS nearly lost there to all of these troops. And now down to 3 men. Now Kübelwagen coming down to the bottom. Going to be taking that bottom victory point here. And the fuel point with the Obersoldaten. Maxim now set up, but here come the infiltration grenades now. And doesn't do much damage at all. But does force that Maxim out of there regardless. And now the second Maxim's out on the field here. Going to bring that towards the bottom-ish of the map. And going to bring up that ZIS towards the top. It's going to spread it out a little bit. And that Luke's all the way up top here. Conscript's moving around the side. Going to try and take that point here. Now it's starting to spread out a little bit. Volksgrenadiers down here brushing off that Maxim like it's not a big deal. They were just sort of standing there, but they did have good cover, so it wasn't a big deal to them. Just sort of brushing it off their shoulders. Not a big deal at all. Luke's all the way up at the top there. Nowhere near these ZIS. And where all here is ZIS. Looks like both of them are moving towards the top after that Luke's there. And now the Luke's moving in and should get hit. It looks like it's just in range, does, and going to get struck there. So it's going to force that Luke's back momentarily and to be repaired. And all the way back at base there, needs to be repaired. It's going to move back to the regiment headquarters. Three-star Maxim now firing away at these troops here. Tons of suppression now. Still 2 victory points for the OKW, the center in the bottom. And here comes an incendiary barrage on the house here. And that Maxim really needs to get out of there. Decrews that Maxim really quickly, and the house may actually burn to the ground here, but in a few, it was a good few patches ago, they actually made it harder to burn houses to the ground, but nope, that time it really is, as it's taken so many incendiary grenades over the course of the game here because of the Maxims inside that building. So now we'll burn to the ground. No more building there for the center for either player. And Maxim desperately trying to get out of there. Now 2 ZIS moving up onto that Panzer II. If you can get rid of that Panzer II, you would actually have a much easier time winning, or at least staying in this game. That Panzer II is pretty much the hero of the game at the moment. It's causing him so much grief, he can't really do anything. These Maxims would be very, very effective if it wasn't for that Lux. So the Lux itself is really countering this pretty much the whole game. Here comes some shock troops going to be going after the Obersoldaten. There's a King Tiger now in the field, and that may just seal the deal. As soon as Paul AD sees that King Tiger, it's just pretty much a bundle grenade there. Nearly took out that whole squad. They just barely made it out before it exploded. And as soon as he hears the sound of the King Tiger, I wouldn't be surprised to see a GG. But he does have 2 ZIS, so he may actually try to fight for a little bit here, but even 2 ZIS, probably not enough. In general, the Lux there takes a shot from the ZIS. And will force that out of there. Down at the bottom here, Kuba-Wagen and the conscripts going at it. We're going to try and take that bottom victory point. And here comes those two, or that King Tiger and the 2 ZIS are trying to run away here. And that King Tiger ominously close. Conscripts run away. They did neutralize it, but stopping his point loss momentarily. And is this King Tiger going to see any action at all this game? As Paul only has 35 points left. Took away that flawless score of CS to only 490. And the 2 ZIS going down to the bottom, which is an interesting move, as there really isn't anything down there. Not that he doesn't know that, but maybe he's going after the Kuba-Wagen down there. Not really sure. But props to CS for holding the Lux and the Kuba-Wagen the entire game and not losing either one. But it's actually pretty hard to not lose a Kuba-Wagen, considering how weak they are. You can pretty much just take an anti-tank grenade and a few shots, and you're pretty much lost your Kuba-Wagen. And ZIS now setting up here, and it's going to be not the greatest spot, as they're probably just going to end up hitting the stone wall, or at least half the time we'll end up doing that. And now there's a KV-8 on the map, and coming around the corner here. And it's not going to be enough. Just got this out probably just for fun and loses the game. King Tiger sees no action, never even gets to fire a shell, but either way, pretty fun. And a pretty good match. Unfortunately, the Maxim spam did not work out this time. At first, it was fairly successful, but once that Lux came out, it just countered the entire game for the rest of the game. And if Paul were able to take out that Lux there, it probably would have changed the game a little bit, or at least had him stay in the game much, much longer. But hope you guys enjoyed the replay, and I'll see you guys next time.